Hello and welcome. In this session, I'll give you a guide to overcoming the biggest challenges with integrating machine learning into your customer experiences. Now, I'm going to specifically refer to ML today, but this applies equally well to other types of artificial intelligence. As it says here, my name is Dave Lucas. I'm Senior Director of Product at Tealium, and I'm based out of San Diego, California. So during our time together today, I want to walk you through how retail brands can thrive by using the power of machine learning to provide more powerful experiences for your customers and also simultaneously making your business more efficient and building better alignment within your organization. And I want to emphasize that everything I discuss today is grounded in real world lessons that I've learned, usually the hard way, while working in this industry, working on these exact problems from a few different angles. So I started out as a data scientist, then I became head of data for an e-commerce brand, and now I work for a software vendor where I build AI and ML tools for brands like you. So anyone who's tried to incorporate machine learning into their business has run into challenges and multiple types of challenges at that. So some of these are the things you'd expect, the challenges with the technology, with the data itself, with data quality, data availability. And if you poke around the internet a little bit and you read about the state of machine learning and how ML is being used in businesses today, these are the types of challenges you see discussed everywhere. In fact, these are the only challenges that you see. There's really no mention of other sorts of things and less tangible roadblocks that you could encounter. But while these technical challenges are absolutely valid, I've dealt with them myself. I continue to deal with them. I'm not dismissing them one bit. I really want to focus today on some of those less tangible things that can bog teams down and lead to a lack of success. They're kind of far more fundamental under the surface challenges. And these challenges are shared by nearly all brands globally, large and small, across industries. If these challenges were purely technical in nature, we would see a trend of brands like these having a lot of success when they invest in their data science teams, in the proper tooling, in those related initiatives. Unfortunately, that's not the trend that we do see. And industry research shows that success with machine learning tends to remain elusive beyond getting a couple, maybe initial quick wins or small wins here and there. So let me show a few recent figures to you here. So according to Capgemini in 2020, about 3/4 of data science projects are not deemed successful. Tech Republic found in the same year that 85% of AI projects don't deliver the intended results. And this is the most painful one here. Less than 10% of all big data projects are considered very beneficial to the executive stakeholders who champion those projects. So clearly there's something happening here that we need to address, right? Now, if there's one thing you remember from my talk today, I hope it'll be this. The primary challenge to your success with your AI projects is not technology, it's not data. It really just comes down to communication and culture. It's the intangibles. It's how your organization thinks and talks together about these problems and about how you'll realistically solve for them. And that's because in the end, AI is really nothing more than just another tool, right? It's just sort of a hammer on a workbench, and it can no sooner, solve your customer experience issues than a hammer can build a house on its own, right? So one industry expert who I really like her work, her name is Cassie Kozyrkov, and she works at Google. She refers to ML simply as a thing labeler. And this is a great, bit of language to use to describe the fact that it's just a tool, right? So essentially, data goes into the label machine, and out the other side comes labels, judgments, categories, predictions, whatever word you use. The point is that it's some kind of simple output of just making judgments about that data. That's it, right? So on its own, these outputs aren't very valuable. What matters is how you use them and how you make decisions in your business based on them. So if we want to make these better decisions, there's two words I like to emphasize. They're tightly related, sort of two sides of the same coin. They are clarity and consensus. So with clarity, I'm referring to asking a lot more questions than I tend to see teams asking. They tend to make a lot of assumptions, right, that ML is going to be some sort of magic bullet or black box that's just going to spit out value. And it's really important that you drill down farther, right at the beginning about what is your business goal? What is the benefit you hope for? Why do you care about that? And why are you sure this is the most important thing to focus your time and effort on? So, like it says here, you got to keep going with this until you reach something that's understandable to everyone involved and it's compelling to everyone involved. Okay, we can't continue with a situation where maybe somebody on the data side like me says, "Yep, I got it. I understand what we have to do." But maybe those executive champions don't understand what exactly is going to happen and how it's going to work and how it's going to roll up to a KPI that they care about. So additionally, with clarity, it comes down to determining how you'll measure success, right? And that refers to the KPI I just mentioned. It refers to how you'll test for this. It refers to how you'll ensure you trust the results of a model, etc. So generally, right, the theme here is just ensuring that you ask enough questions and that you feel good about the answers. Now, feeling good about them is a consensus thing, right? So with consensus, again, two sides of the same coin. And everything that's happening in these projects, all the steps that are happening to go from an idea through use of an emergent technology like ML to an end output and measuring success and really giving a better experience to a customer, that involves multiple teams and stakeholders within your organization. A key challenge I tend to see all the time, even with really sophisticated brands, is that those pieces aren't defined clearly enough. There's not enough alignment on them. There's not agreement about them even, right? Like, so one team might make an assumption about what another team has the bandwidth to offer them and how often, they'll hand that info or that value to them. And it may not be realistic, right? It may be a set of competing priorities there. So again, the key here is to upfront determine everything you need to do, the who, what, why, when, where, how, why is this a priority for everyone? Get everybody moving in the same direction up front. Now, I know if I step back that this may seem like common sense, right? Or it may seem just very high level. But again, these are the number one challenges I see all the time with brands, and if we don't have, or if we have a set of poorly set expectations, the project can't bear the weight of the technical challenges and the data challenges, et cetera, on top of it. We've got to have a rock solid foundation so we know what we're doing, the direction we're heading together. There's one other interesting piece of this. This isn't something I really see talked about yet in the machine learning industry much, but it's really great to know and kind of helps you, arrive at clarity, consensus better. The quality of your artificial intelligence projects, the quality of your ability to do ML successfully is entirely dependent on the quality of your analytics or your business intelligence, if you want to use that term. But point is, if machine learning is a tool, then analytics is the blueprint that shows you what to build with that tool and how to do it, right? And this is because your analytics is how you measure what's happening in your business, how you discover relationships and causal factors and correlative relationships, and how you make good decisions about what you want to do next based on that, right? It gives you all the fodder for thinking of good ideas, coming to good decisions. So in other words, your analytics is how you define reality, and it's the blueprint. If you don't have a clear picture of reality, the only thing left to do, right, is to go off other people's opinions, right, which is a classic problem that all organizations struggle with when they're building capabilities around new technologies, new ways of doing things, right? So having good analytics unlocks all that communication I'm talking about. It gives you a foundation that you can use to arrive at clarity. It changes the entire conversation from people sort of discussing or hopefully not arguing about their opinions to a consensus based on facts. Once you have this, it becomes more just a matter of execution. It becomes those technical challenges that do have objective solutions. So easiest ways to kind of bring this home is to show it via a couple examples, right? So I'm going to walk through a couple common retail use cases here, show you the pitfalls along the way, and show you how you can use clarity and consensus to get past those. So first one, we'll start with a really basic example that applies to every brand, right? The concept of abandonment and recovery. Here I use the word cart. This could be browse abandonment, any kind of abandonment. Typically, the strategy here from a marketing standpoint or a customer experience standpoint is for your brand to send a recovery campaign to every single user or customer who abandoned, right? So every cart abandoner gets the same email. Maybe it contains a coupon code if that recipient clicks through and completes their purchase. Two problems here with this are that this strategy is grossly inefficient and that it gives a subpar experience to many of your visitors, right? Because you're just taking a giant blanket action on a ton of people. So it seems, therefore, like a prime candidate for machine learning. If we can use machine learning to score every one of your cart abandoners on their likelihood to return and to make that purchase promptly, we can implement a more efficient strategy, right? Where we could have a much smaller, more targeted audience of people we send the messaging to and send the coupon to, and everyone else we can either avoid messaging them, avoid spamming them, or we can send them a different message that's more fitting for them, right? So seems great, right? But if we actually go through this exercise, and I've done this with a number of brands doing this specific use case, you kind of run into some issues related to clarity and consensus. So the key thing here is that there's two competing goals happening under the hood. So on the one hand, you want to provide those better experiences to your customers. You want to be more efficient from a marketing standpoint. Those are both really worthy goals. This is going to help you get there. On the other hand, if you shrink the audience of people that you send recovery campaigns to, it's possible you're going to shrink your top line sales a little bit, right? Because some of those people who were unlikely might have actually bought in the end. So, which matters most to you, right? If you don't have really, really clear directives and alignment with your executives and your stakeholders about which path you're going down, you're going to end up in a situation later where the thing you do maybe actually hurts your most important KPI. That's why it's so important to have these conversations up front. So, example number two here, right, is going to be the concept of doing real-time predictions or real-time machine learning to put labels on people who are passing through your website on various conversion paths, and you want to give them better personalized experiences, right? So a little bit more cutting edge, a quicker use case. Now, I've worked with several brands who are doing this. We tend to run into the exact same set of issues, right? So there's trust issues, right? So if a machine learning model is running on every single page, it has to be a fairly lightweight model running on a fairly shallow data set. It can often be pretty tough to convince the team who is in charge of building that amazing website experience and doing all the content swapping and personalization that this machine learning model is something they should trust to do their job differently and do it better, right? Again, it comes down to competing motivations there. Secondly, you've got resource issues. I've seen a number of brands go down the path of real-time personalization without being realistic with themselves and with their colleagues about the amount of resources and time and energy it would take to make all that swappable content to ensure that the platform can support it, et cetera. And then lastly, measurement, right? How do you know for sure that you're designing a good test to ensure that the new content does perform better, et cetera? There's a lot of related factors. It can be tough to design tests there. So if we step back, again, we can see that every one of these common challenges comes down to communication. It comes down to expectations and aligning between your teams on what is most important and how you're going to steadily progress that way together. So the good news is that these are just communication challenges, right? I just want to emphasize with this slide that none of these challenges are insurmountable. They're just a little more subjective or more focused on upfront discussion and planning, or maybe continual discussion and planning and alignment than purely technical challenges are. So to recap here, throwing money at technology in your data teams is not going to be a complete solution. You need to focus on clarity and consensus. If you do, everything else will naturally fall into place. This is the most important part of your investment in AI. And it's essentially all an approach where you work backwards, right, to ensure that your team and your stakeholders are all headed in the same direction. I've gone through a lot today. If you're looking for additional ways to get started and some more tactical use cases, I'd refer you to Tealium.com, where you can find resources like these. The Joy of Data cookbook alone, that ebook has, I think, 20 use cases like I've discussed with a ton of detail to help you get there, walk you through each one. And shameless plug, my team forced me to do here. If you're interested in checking out an example of a machine learning tool that works with your existing customer data, doesn't require any code or data science knowledge, and is something that a member of your marketing or e-commerce team can do on their own, pairing with the kinds of discussions I mentioned today, check out Tealium Predict ML at tealium.com/predict. Thanks so much and enjoy the rest of the event.